has given the most remarkable, devoted service to the Queen, to my family, and to the country, and also to the whole of the Commonwealth.
The palace did not stay quiet this time. It made a move that echoed across royal history. In a decision that stunned people from Windsor all the way to Montecito, Archie and Lilibet were reportedly removed from the royal line of succession, turning what had been a deeply personal family dispute into a controversy that sparked widespread debate. For Harry and Meghan, it was more than an official palace update. It felt like the sound of a chapter ending for good. Before we dig into what this could mean for the future of the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the latest updates. Harry stood by the kitchen counter with his phone still in his hand, but he didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on the screen as the weight of the news settled in. Meghan stood only a few steps away, watching closely. She waited for anger, waited for him to reject what he had just read, waited for even one sentence that might make everything feel less final. Instead, the silence said everything. The royal line of succession, the official order that lists who may inherit the throne, had reportedly been updated by Buckingham Palace. Archie and Lilibet were no longer included in that order, and to Harry, those words felt less like an announcement and more like a judgment that could not be taken back. Meghan quietly asked Harry to say something, anything. He didn't answer. He looked at the message again, hoping that reading it one more time might uncover a mistake, a misunderstanding, or even a small reason to believe it was not final. But nothing changed. The palace's reported decision appeared clear, not as another rumor, not as palace gossip, and not as a temporary review. It looked like an official step that carried enormous symbolic weight. Meghan seemed to feel the impact first, as a mother. Harry appeared to feel it as a prince facing the possibility that the path back to royal life had become even harder to imagine. Reports suggested that King Charles understood the announcement could deeply affect Harry and Meghan, while Prince William was aware it could trigger strong public reactions. According to those reports, the king and the heir to the throne had met privately with senior constitutional advisors, experts who help guide decisions whenever royal family matters could have wider constitutional implications. Those advisors were not gathered to offer comfort. They were there because a confidential review, described in reports as being intended only for the royal household, was said to contain recommendations that could turn long-running family tensions into a major public controversy. Back in Montecito, the room fell completely silent before anyone spoke again. Meghan watched Harry's expression slowly change as he carefully placed the phone on the table, the seriousness of the moment impossible to ignore. Across the ocean, King Charles was said to be carrying the pressure in silence, while Prince William reportedly focused on what he believed was the long-term future of the monarchy. Even though the headlines centered on Archie and Lilibet, many believed the controversy had never really been about the children. Instead, it had grown out of years of tension between the adults, and before any reported changes became the center of public attention, people were already asking who would ultimately be held responsible. Major royal decisions are rarely seen as simple paperwork. Behind every document are people, conversations, disagreements, and long moments of silence. Charles faced the responsibility that comes with the crown. William faced questions about protecting the monarchy's future. Harry faced the painful reality of his strained relationship with the institution he was born into. Meghan faced the emotional challenge of seeing her family become part of an intense public debate that they did not create. To many observers, this seemed like far more than routine palace business. It had become another chapter in a deeply personal family conflict playing out under worldwide attention. Charles was described as sitting at his desk with an important document before him, fully aware that every decision connected to the monarchy would be closely examined. The crown, the role and constitutional responsibilities of the monarch, demands difficult choices, even when personal feelings may pull in a different direction. William stood across from Charles with a calm expression. but there was nothing uncertain about his position. He appeared to accept the weight of the monarchy's future as a responsibility he could not avoid. Reports suggested he believed that any decision involving the line of succession, the official order of who may inherit the throne, had to be guided by constitutional rules rather than personal emotions. For Harry, the situation reportedly felt deeply personal long before anyone publicly discussed his name. He was said to believe that his children were facing the consequences of choices he and Meghan had made together. Choices that had created years of tension with the royal household. Meghan reportedly viewed the situation through a different lens, making the emotional divide even greater. To her, Archie and Lilibet were not part of a constitutional debate. They were simply children whose connection to their father's royal heritage had become the subject of intense public discussion. Harry was described as carrying disappointment, while Meghan was said to feel growing frustration. Together, they faced the reality. The breakthrough anyone had hoped for. Meghan was said to have asked for written assurances about the children's long-term royal status, despite Harry and Meghan no longer carrying out official royal duties. Harry reportedly supported that request because he believed his children should not be caught in the middle of an ongoing family dispute that they never chose to be part of. Charles reportedly listened without revealing much emotion, choosing each word with great care. He was said to understand why the issue carried such weight. According to accounts of the discussion, there were concerns that if one part of the family kept royal standing without taking on official royal responsibilities, similar questions could arise again for future generations. William reportedly saw that possibility as a serious risk, and those following the story claimed his patience was beginning to wear thin. Reports suggest Meghan continued to argue that Archie and Lilibet's place should not be affected by decisions made by their parents. Harry was said to look from Meghan to William, hoping someone might ease the growing tension in the room. William reportedly leaned back, removed his glasses, and allowed a long silence to settle before speaking, making the atmosphere feel even heavier. According to accounts describing the conversation, William then said, "Then we are no longer discussing family. We are discussing the crown." Harry reportedly lowered his gaze, while Meghan remained composed. Charles was said to speak very little, but observers believed he was taking in every word. Some reports also claim that a senior royal household advisor kept confidential internal notes to record the discussion, although the contents of any such records have not been publicly confirmed. According to reports, internal notes describing that private meeting portrayed it as a clash between royal privilege and royal responsibility. Supporters of that view believe the discussion marked the point where emotions gave way to questions about constitutional duty. Harry was said to speak from the perspective of a father. Meghan reportedly focused on seeking security for her children. William, according to those accounts, responded from the standpoint of the future king and the institution he expected to one day lead. Charles reportedly remained mostly silent, aware that any future decision connected to the monarchy could eventually require his approval. After the meeting, attention is said to have shifted toward a legal and constitutional review, with advisors examining how different options might affect the official rules surrounding the line of succession. The process was described as careful, detailed, and carried out behind closed doors. William reportedly did not treat the review as a victory. Harry was said to be unaware of how significant it might become, while Meghan reportedly believed there was still time for further discussions to change the outcome. According to accounts of the situation, the review continued quietly through the palace until the disagreements reached a point where avoiding another difficult meeting no longer seemed possible. From that moment on, every conversation was said to carry even greater consequences for the family and the monarchy alike. Some palace conversations reportedly end with compromise, while others end with tensions rising so high that no easy solution is left. According to accounts surrounding this story, this was believed to be the second kind. Behind closed doors, Harry and William were said to face each other not simply as brothers with a shared past, but as two men standing on opposite sides of the institution that had shaped both of their lives. Reports suggest Harry entered the meeting believing there was still one last chance to change the direction of events. He reportedly wanted to speak before any decision became public and before discussions about Archie and Lilibet's place in relation to the monarchy reached a point that felt impossible to undo. William was said to agree to a private conversation without advisors present, a detail many observers considered significant because advisors often help reduce tension during difficult royal discussions. This time, according to those accounts, there was no one in the room to ease the growing disagreement. The crown, the constitutional role, authority, and responsibilities of the monarchy seemed to hang over every word, even without any document being placed between them. Reports claim Harry's emotions quickly became impossible to hide as he accused William of allowing the palace to undermine his children's connection to their royal heritage. The hurt in his voice reportedly turned every sentence into a direct challenge, making the atmosphere even more intense. Harry reportedly believed Archie and Lilibet had been pulled into a conflict they never asked to be part of. According to accounts of the meeting, he argued that the children should not bear the consequences of years of disagreement between the adults. William listened carefully, but he was said to remain firm. In his view, dignity could not be separated from duty, and the future of the monarchy had to be guided by constitutional responsibility rather than emotion alone. Harry reportedly heard that as cold and distant. William believed he was speaking about responsibility. Reports also claim Harry brought up something Meghan had said to him during a private conversation before the meeting. According to those accounts, she believed Charles had never intended to fully protect the children's royal position. Harry repeated those words, hoping they might prompt William to respond or disagree. Instead, William reportedly remained quiet, looking at his brother with an expression that some observers described as more sorrowful than angry. William was said to understand Meghan's frustration, but he reportedly believed the royal line of succession, the official order of who may inherit the throne, could not be treated as a personal family possession. As the discussion grew more emotional, Harry reportedly leaned forward and said, "They are children." The room was said to fall silent as the weight of those words settled over everyone present. William reportedly paused, looked down for a moment, and then answered, "And one day, my children will carry the crown." The room was said to go completely quiet. According to accounts of the meeting, Harry immediately understood that the discussion was no longer only about Archie and Lilibet. It also touched the future of George, Charlotte, and Louis, and the responsibility William believed he had to protect the path his own children might one day follow. Reports suggest William then shared what Harry may have found the hardest part to hear. According to those accounts, an internal review had already been completed, and recommendations had already moved through the palace's decision-making process. The remaining question, it was claimed, was whether Harry would learn about any final decision in private before it became public. Harry reportedly looked at his brother in disbelief, as though the full weight of the situation had finally become impossible to ignore. Emotion had filled the room first, but institutional responsibility was now driving the conversation. While the brothers reportedly stood on opposite sides of the argument, many observers believed the palace's internal process continued regardless of their emotions. The monarchy, supporters often argue, operates not only through personal relationships, but also through long-standing procedures, constitutional traditions, official documents, and established precedent. According to reports, every stage of the review was handled carefully behind closed doors. Documents were examined, rules were considered, and possible outcomes were evaluated before any recommendation reached Charles. He was said to receive the final file, knowing that whatever decision followed would carry enormous personal and constitutional consequences. William's reported position did not rely on raised voices or dramatic confrontations. According to accounts, it remained steady and difficult to dismiss until even Charles was said to have recognized how serious the constitutional questions had become. Reports described a royal household review, said to examine royal rules, responsibilities, and possible consequences, as placing the long-term stability of the line of succession above personal negotiation. Supporters of that approach argued that making one exception for Archie and Lilibet could encourage similar requests from future branches of the royal family, raising difficult questions for generations to come. Camilla was reportedly able to see the pressure weighing on Charles before he even spoke. As monarch, his approval would carry the public authority of the crown, even though advisors and officials were said to play an important role in shaping recommendations. According to reports, Charles still had options. He could approve a proposal, delay it, or ask for further review. At the same time, William's position as the future king reportedly gave his views considerable influence because he would eventually inherit the institution and the consequences of today's decisions. Accounts also suggest the Queen understood that Charles was not simply weighing policy against policy. He was balancing his responsibilities as a grandfather with his duty as monarch. Reports claim he carefully read the final recommendations once again, which argued that separating royal status from ongoing royal responsibility could create a precedent with lasting constitutional implications. The language may have sounded formal, but the message was said to leave little room for uncertainty. According to accounts from royal observers, one of the biggest concerns discussed behind palace doors was the possibility of creating a lasting contradiction. If children who were being raised outside the day-to-day working life of the monarchy continued to hold the same protected position within its structure, some believed future generations would face the very same debate all over again. Reports suggest William warned that the issue would not disappear with time. Instead, he believed it could eventually affect George, Charlotte, and Louis, placing even greater pressure on the next generation of the royal family. Accounts also claim that a senior advisor offered one of the strongest warnings during the discussions. According to those reports, an internal palace memorandum argued that delaying a decision could leave William facing an even larger constitutional challenge after he became king. Charles was said to take a long pause before responding. Camilla reportedly noticed the change in his expression, believing he was weighing not only institutional concerns, but also the deeply personal cost of whatever came next. Supporters of this version of events believed any decision would bring painful consequences for everyone involved. Regret. Some accounts claim he had previously been cautioned through private conversations, that the palace review was becoming increasingly serious. Harry was said to have heard those warnings, but he reportedly never believed the situation would reach this point. According to accounts of the situation, Harry had believed Charles might delay any final step, soften its impact, or preserve at least one remaining connection between the family and the monarchy. Instead, the king's silence reportedly came to feel like an answer of its own. Meghan was said to ask whether William had been the strongest voice behind the reported decision. Harry did not answer right away, and that pause seemed to carry more weight than any words he could have spoken. William's name reportedly hung over the conversation like an unanswered question. Meghan was said to believe for some time that William viewed their children's royal connection as a challenge for the monarchy's future. Harry, according to reports, understood that his brother believed he was acting out of duty rather than personal hostility. Even so, that explanation offered little comfort. In Harry's view, duty had still led to consequences that affected Archie and Lilibet and left their family feeling even more distant from the institution. As the anger slowly faded, the house reportedly became almost completely silent. Observers described that silence as even more painful than the arguments that came before it. Harry was said to feel that the situation marked the end of any simple path back toward reconciliation, while Meghan reportedly believed the dispute had changed the family's relationship with the monarchy in a lasting way. Whatever happened next, many believed the emotional distance between both sides had grown even deeper.